Roxy.
Good morning, Tam.
The world is opening up a little bit. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, I know. I've ventured out a little bit. Like we've done like a little bit of the outside, like dining. It's still a little bit weird to kind of go out and really be out.
Yes.
Have you ventured out yet, though?
We have ventured out. I ventured out with you.
Yes.
And
we had a great hike,
closer.
actually.
You kept getting closer to me, and I was like, "Go 6 feet, Roxy. Go 6 feet." And I'm like, I want to talk to you. And it was really hard to walk around with those masks on. You know what I mean? Like everyone's supposed to be wearing masks, and we are, but it's really hard to wear those masks.
Yes, and we did a hike, like an uphill hike, which was extra challenging.
It's challenging on the best of days. So.
Yes, it is. It is.
Well, who do we have today?
Oh, I'm super excited because we're going to get all the juice from her. We have Miss Kristy Katzmann, who is the star of Labor of Love. It's this sort of like revolutionary reality show because she wants to have a baby. So I feel like we need to like give her some mom advice and like tell her the real deal, right?
And she wants a baby like now.
Now, like right this minute.
And we should be like, why do you want to have a kid again?
Yeah, exactly. We're like, come on over to our houses and get back here.
Well, Kristy,
welcome. We're so excited to have you. So, gosh, tell us about this show because this is like a one-of-a-kind show that's never been done before. So give us the scoop.
Yeah, it's funny when I get asked that question, I have to remember that it is kind of outside the box because to be honest, for me, it feels totally normal in so many ways because this really is my life, and I think this is also the situation that a lot of women I know find themselves in. So I remember kind of being in the process to do the show. And that question was kind of thrown out to me, how are you going to handle the controversy of this? And I thought, controversy? This is controversial?
Right?
And I get it. I do. But I think my point is I sort of had to realize that there might be pushback from this experience because I do get that it's a show. And so I think until people see it, they might not really understand what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of heart and soul and integrity and honesty in the show. But for me, this is representative of not only my life, but of the life of so many women I know today. And I think the real issue is we haven't seen this yet. Right. It's happening, but we just haven't seen it on television or, in media. It's not something that's been covered. But it very much is happening out there in the real world.
And it's a different world for women, I'm 35 years old and I have 2 children, but I'm thinking, will I have another child? And I know for myself that I don't have that many eggs left, right? So I'm like, okay, so do we freeze out eggs? And then I have friends who are 35 or older, 45, and they don't have a significant other and they want children. So it's like you can have the life that you want. You don't have to wait and do it exactly the way that it was done even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, 20 years ago. It's like you can have a family if you would like a family. And I think that it's so empowering and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I think women need to speak up and talk about the fact that there's so many different ways to have a family and so many different ways to go about it. And it's our choice. It's our choice to decide what we want for our life. And I hate it when everyone has an opinion about our lives. It's like,
our bodies.
You got your life. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do. So what does it matter what we do? You don't have to live in our trenches,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just laughing. You're preaching to the choir because I feel like Fridays are an interesting day for me. It's post-show day. So a lot of opinions get thrown at me. I get it, But yeah, we all have to live our lives at the end of the day. And I love that you're talking about egg freezing actually, because it does get harder, the older that you get. And I was 41 when I did that. And if I could go back, so I have these moments of like, what would I do differently? What would I want to tell myself 5-10 years ago? I always knew that I would have children later in life. I always wanted them, but I knew I would do other things first. I certainly thought it would have happened by now. So, I maybe wasn't planning for that. And maybe none of us really want to believe that could be our reality, that it won't just happen. But if I could go back, I would do this in my early 30s. I don't know if I knew about it then, to be honest with you. So I like that is starting to get more attention. And I worked with OVA in Chicago and they purely specialize in egg freezing. So I think this is really a sign of the times too, that there are really amazing facilities dedicating themselves just to this process, not the whole piece of the fertility picture. So women who want to do this can really feel taken care of and like they matter, I think because they do. And that's what it comes down to. And we just haven't really seen this out in the world yet. So I love that you brought that up because I actually think it's something that I wish I would have done many years ago. And I should have.
Would you freeze your eggs?
I mean, I would probably, it's funny for me because actually my husband and I planned on not having kids.
Yeah. And then whoopsies. Was she an accident or was that a try?
Yeah. She was kind of an accident. Like, I mean, I should say.
It's not really an accident, Roxy. You know exactly what you're doing.
Right.
She's like, I don't even know how it happened. It was like an immaculate conception. I'm like, no, you know.
It just came from the stork above. No. I would say it was kind of like we weren't being super careful. So I guess there's always that chance, right? That you could get pregnant. But I think if I really had wanted a child and I, wasn't in the place or it wasn't the right time, I think I would freeze my eggs, especially now because, it's interesting what Tammin was saying before. I actually have two friends. They're both single, but they both wanted kids. So one went the adoption route. The other one had a sperm donor and she has two kids now. So I think it's interesting because you want that partner though, don't you? Like to raise the child.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. But I love what you're saying. I think the truth is if you even think there's a chance and you can do it, because that's priceless. You're buying yourself the opportunity and the choice because unfortunately biology just hasn't caught up with society.
Right.
But yes, your point is a good one. So for me personally, I'm 42 now. I was 41 when I did the show. I had really been ready to move forward with having a baby on my own. I would say for 2 years prior to the show.
Okay.
I kept hesitating because I could do it. I knew I could do it, but that's not what I wanted. And, so there is a message here in the show, whether it's unconventional or not. I had to look at what was on my plate and trying to date in those circumstances was extremely difficult. Not only did I find that my dating pool changed substantially when I turned 40, but I literally didn't have time to waste. So it was putting this pressure on dating. I was feeling frustrated with dating. So when the show came about, for me, it was an opportunity where these men had signed up, knowing what they were signing up for, at least saying they were in the same place as me. So that kind of vetting had been done for me. So I truly had an opportunity to date 15 men that had been selected for me that knew what was on the table. So that is what I wanted. I hesitated because I wanted to meet someone and have the experience of starting a family with them. And, who would have thunk it? But the way it worked out for me, it was to sign up for a labor of love.
Isn't it interesting?
You never know where you're going to meet your person.
Women in their 40s are like, you're at the end of your baby making years, and men in their 40s are so viable. Men in their 40s are dating women in their 20s. And yet for us, it's like, you're a geriatric pregnancy, or it's called a geriatric pregnancy. That's why I had my second daughter before I turned 35, because I just didn't want to be called a geriatric pregnancy. That's the only reason. We tried. We tried for so long, and we, and I talk about this, we had a lot of miscarriages, and people don't prepare you for that either. They go, my first daughter's 6 years old. So we're like, when she turns 4, she was a very hard child. She's very spirited, but she's amazing now, but it was hard in the beginning. We're like, we'll wait 4 years. And then that 4 years lasted to 6 years because those 2 years were just getting pregnant, losing the baby, getting pregnant, losing the baby. And no one even talks about that either. So it's like, I think the education is really important in having podcasts like this and having guests like you, because there's so many different ways to create a family, but it's also really important to know early and to set your life up as soon as you can and not to be scared of that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this technology is changing, even in the last 5 years. So that's what I love for women who are maybe, coming up on the cusp now. I do think there are many more opportunities, but we do have to be aware that they're out there. And I do want other women to realize they are so far from alone, but I know what it feels like to feel alone in this process. But I think the more we talk about it, the more people will realize that, the better conversations we'll have. But I'm laughing at what you're saying, and it's not funny because I actually had my I had my fertility tested when I was 35, because even then I was panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm really running out of time. And I remember getting my test results back, and stamped across the top was advanced maternal age.
Oh my God.
In red. It was just like, bam. And I remember being like, oh my God, I was saying to them, I'm like advanced maternal age. Like I'm advanced age of 35. And they were trying to explain it was medical. But I thought, you don't need to stamp that in a giant red stamp.
You don't need to know that.
You're sending me. I was like, talk about terrible message. I remember literally being horrified. It was such a reality check on so many levels. And I thought, this is not the way we should be doing things.
No, or speaking to women.
Yeah, I know. It's making you feel awful,
I mean, there was a actual stamp. I mean, they had a stamp made. It was like, like the kind like you press in ink.
Like, who made the stamp?
On the paper.
You know what I mean?
I thought, I want to talk to this company. Advanced maternal age.
So how are things now? Are there possibilities? Are there things happening? Like what's?
Oh, there's things happening.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a pregnancy announcement on Women on Top today?
Right. Yes.
Well, I think we only have to wait like 3 more weeks, to.
Okay,
wait,
stand up. We have to do a bump check.
Can I tell you, ladies, like, this whole, social isolation and everything going on has been so tough. But I have to say, to keep my secret, it's been a little bit of a blessing for me because I'm not out and about. Everything's Zoom.
Ooh.
I can do everything from the chest up.
That kind of sounds like you're pregnant.
Below. I mean, Roxy and I stand up and we're like, oh, we still have a bump, but we're not pregnant.
That's what I always want to say. I want to be like, baby bump or quarantine bump. I was like, really? There's, you don't know these days, but.
So there could be the pitter patter of little feet coming soon. Oh. She's got that glow.
It's like little
really
feet that smash you in the face when they get a little older and punch you in the gut. But it's cute, right?
Yeah.
I will say, thankfully, I have nieces and nephews. So I've been through. It's different when they're yours and you have them 24/7. It is pretty cool to be like the cool aunt because I just get to do all the fun stuff and they think I'm amazing all the time. They don't get mad at me. They get mad at their mom.
You don't have to clean the poop down their back or their thighs.
I've had to do that actually. I've had to do that, but it's you know what? I'm so happy that the show is coming out now because honestly, keeping all of this a secret has been really challenging. I can't say how things work out, obviously, but what I can say is, this
You're
show
happy.
truly, I'm happy. And this show truly is my life. And that's why it's not even weird for me to watch it, quite frankly, because it's very real. And I've just continued on that journey. We're a year later. So, lots of stuff has happened. Mm-hmm. But I've never backed off of that journey, so that's the important thing. It was just like, I kept going. The day we wrapped the show, it was next steps.
The producers were probably stoked that the whole quarantine thing is happening because it's like one less secret they have to worry about, right?
Possibly. I think this hasn't been done, like you were saying. So I think we were all wondering, like, how are we going to navigate this? And quite frankly, I didn't know when the show was going to air. I didn't know that it was going to be this much of a gap between filming. So I really just had to go on with my life, and here we are. So now we're starting to anyway, how things have been, but it's been an interesting time. Let's say that all around.
I always say, Roxy, it'd be a great time to get a nose job or something, right? Or like a boob job
get
or
like
something.
the mommy makeover.
You come in like a mom, like post mom body, like your boobs are a little saggy and your skin is like, and then you come out of quarantine and everything's perky and tight, and you're just like, I don't know what happened.
So weird. It's contour. It's contour.
I was actually the person that was like, I took full advantage of quarantine in the best way possible. It's like, I've been working out every day.
Best body ever.
So speaking of the show, I mean, this is not your first reality show, by the way. You were on The Bachelor. You were on The Bachelor, Brad Womack's season.
So, his first season.
The first season, right, because he did it twice. So Tammin and I have had other Bachelor folks come on the show and like talk, and they tell us oftentimes about the fantasy suites, even the dates. When the season you were on.
I fantasize about the fantasy suites, Roxy.
I know. It's like,
we've been married for like 15, the two of us have been married for like too long. And so we're like, the fantasy, what happens in the fantasy? I dreamt about it last night, by the way. I'll let you finish with your question. But last night for 8 hours, I dreamt about the fantasy suite. I'll leave it right there. I'll leave it right there.
So exactly how much nookie was going on in your season of The Bachelor?
It's fine nookie. I mean, what are we talking about here?
We're talking about the full.
I guess it's kissing, isn't it?
No, I think it's a full meal deal, right?
Could you do that in the fantasy suite?
Well, we didn't have a fantasy suite on Labor of Love.
Oh, no.
The Bachelor.
Oh, could you do what?
Like
I don't
full
know.
meal.
I don't know.
The full meal deal.
I was never in the fantasy suite, so I don't know what really goes on there. I can tell you from
in the dates,
seeing snippets of Labor of Love, like there's you do kind of normalize to thinking about cameras being everywhere. So there's things I've seen even on promos that were like me sitting in my bed that I'm like, ooh, creepy. Like wasn't thinking that, or like the Marcus kiss, like didn't know there was cameras. I'm like, ooh, that's awkward to watch, with the parental unit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, note to self, when you think there's not cameras around, there probably are, or there's audio. And I've often wondered that about the fantasy suite. If I had been in that position, would I have really felt comfortable? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's not cameras, but I guarantee there's some audio in there. And you do kind of sign your life away. Like whatever happens, it's fair game.
But even on the dates, there's stuff going on, right? Like even on the dates, the intimacy happens. And that's got to be kind of weird because you're really thinking about him, right? With all these other women. It's got to be kind of crazy.
So jealous. I would be the worst bachelor candidate. If my husband follows someone on Instagram that's semi-cute, I'm like, who's this bitch? I'm like, excuse me, we don't know her. He's like, yeah, I like her father. I'm like, then follow her effing father. I'm like, why are you following her? Father's not in a bikini. The worst. Funny. I would be the worst on the Bachelor. I'd be like, who are you kissing? I was like, did you kiss someone else today? What are you doing? Like, I would never get the job.
How do you handle that? Like, is that just like something you just deal with and like kind of go with it?
It's funny because I think when I was on The Bachelor, like I think I'm kind of part of old school Bachelor, right? Like we were really the last season where social media did not exist. We weren't traveling all over the world. So some of that there is like some more sheltering just because things aren't as exposed. So you really don't know what's going on, and I think I was on season 11. I mean, The Bachelor was new-ish at that point. So you're maybe a little more naive about everything that could be going on. And I think things have certainly gotten more outlandish as the seasons have gone along and people have gotten more aggressive about pursuing those things. But when I was on it, I don't know. I think it was, I don't want to say it was innocent, but it was kind of that iconic fairy tale, and I think a lot of the flow of the show played into that. So there was maybe less of that going on now. Now, but it is awkward. I mean, even on Labor of Love, like, it's this hard thing because I also, what people might not realize, I never knew what was happening, and Labor of Love has not existed before. So I couldn't look back at other seasons and be like, what did she do? What happened? What did they put her up to? Like, I was walking into dates or drills also not knowing what was going on, except everyone was looking at me like I should know what's going on, And so, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that was going to get one date with these guys? Would I get another date with a guy that I liked? And so I'm totally going to cough.
No worries.
I'm not trying to avoid the question.
Every time someone coughs, you're like, can you get it through the computer screen?
Like, so it is that balance where like, obviously like chemistry is part of it, right? So it's like, you don't want to not kiss them. But at the same time, there's 40 cameras in your face and you're aware that at some point this is going to be on TV and you do have family members and parents that will be watching. That's the worst.
It's like my acting life. Every time I kiss someone, I'm like, well, everyone's going to see this. Okay. So you worked with Kristin Davis.
Yeah.
Okay. I have seen Sex and the City probably, I'm not even joking. How many episodes are there? Probably 50 episodes, Roxy?
Yeah.
I've probably seen
them over and over and over again, right?
times, like 600 episodes, because I keep watching it. I know all the quotes.
It never gets old. It never gets old.
It doesn't.
Never.
So when you saw her, were you like, oh my God?
Yeah. And it's funny that you say the two things because in this whole quarantine, I totally rewatched the whole season 2. And, I'd obviously like now met Kristin in person. But so when that show came out, I think I was in my 20s. And to your point, I loved it then. Now I'm in my early 40s. Like, I still love it. It's such a show that stands the test of time. And, I knew these women were amazing then. But now I really look back and I'm like, wow, so much of what was talked about on that show was so groundbreaking. You know, it was like things had not been talked about. So I think there's a real resonance between Sex and the City in a way and Labor of Love. And I think I did not know Kristin was going to be the host. And yes, I was freaking out because I was a Charlotte. So
you were the Charlotte. Okay.
I was Charlotte. So I was like, oh my gosh, you know, but I think so there could not have been a more perfect woman to host the show. And I think it really needed to be a woman, quite honestly.
Of course.
And Kristin, you know, whether you're talking about Charlotte, her most iconic character, or Kristin herself, she has been through these things, right? So she was not only the host of the show, but she was really my confidant in this. Like I really didn't have anyone else. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have access to talk to anyone. I was really kind of isolated. You know, the men kind of had each other. So Kristin is who I would talk through everything with. And for me, knowing that she had also been through these things, I think both in her professional life, you know, the things that she's trying to navigate, and then ultimately starting her own family later in life. And then of course, Charlotte goes through her own process with the family.
Remember the baby on the cardboard?
Yeah. I don't know if I remember the baby on the cardboard.
Baby? Oh my gosh. So she couldn't get pregnant, and then she walks in and the husband at the time, Trey, has the baby in a cardboard, and she's like, "You bought me a cardboard baby?"
Yes. Like he thought it was funny. It's like, no, it's not funny.
It's not cute.
So like, what kind of advice has she been giving you along the way?
You know, it's interesting. So I think Kristin is kind of put in an interesting position because she sees, so I think what people forget when they watch reality shows is I don't see probably 90% of what happens. So everyone's sitting there yelling at their TVs, like, how is she keeping him? Or how could she not know? But it's like, I really only know what happens in front of me. Now, Kristin would be privy to other things happening at the guy's house. And so I feel like she's put in this position where she can't tell me that. Nor do I think she would want to, but I think she really plays that best friend role really well. And what I mean by that is sort of a great best friend is going to understand you, but never tell you what to do, right? But they're going to help you decide what's best for you by kind of talking you through it. And I think that's what Kristin did. You know, she never told me what was going on. She never told me her opinion, but what people don't realize is those sit-in chats that we had before elimination were probably two hours long, if not longer. And we just see a snippet of it. But we would really talk the pros and cons of all these men and things that had happened during the week. So that became really instrumental for me, especially the further we get along in the process. Because, you know, there's some twists and turns. There's some unexpected stuff that we can still expect to see coming.
Roxy, you and I need to stop telling each other what to do then.
I know.
The moral of the story. Stop telling me what to do, Roxy.
I mean, I want to be more like that. That's like how it's like, man, okay, I want to be more like that in my friendships. And I've had friends who are like that, and I so admire it because it's like you want to help your friend, and you go in there, and you're like, and you see the bigger picture.
Yeah. They're making bad decisions. You're like, how can you not see that you're making a terrible decision?
But sometimes you have to let people fall, right? Yeah. You have to let them fall.
And it's like, how do we, you know, we're all different, right? It's so easy to be objective when your own background and experiences and feelings aren't involved. So it's so easy. We all do it. We're on the outside being like, this is so clear what you should do. But then we're all in it ourselves and it feels a little muddy.
Yeah. Are you scared of is there anything about being a mom that you're afraid of? Yeah. Or have you heard all the crazy stories like us?
What is the thing that freaks you out the most?
All of it.
You're like all of the above.
Oh, all of the above. Yeah. D. Yeah. I just all of it. Yeah. Yeah. I think no matter what age you are, or what your circumstances are, it's scary. It's uncharted waters, you know, and it's like you can be around kids, which I certainly have been plenty, but it's very different when you are the one that is it. You're the mom. You know, you're the be all end all. You're the one that is going to be responsible for everything. And I think there's that fear of just getting it wrong, of not being able to handle it. You know, I know it's a lot. It's amazing as it is. It's a lot. And it's a big game changer. And so I think for me, on the one hand, doing this later in life, I feel really ready for that because I've done a lot of things that I wanted to do. But it's also scary because my life is going to change significantly.
Do you like sleep? Do you like sleep?
Because that is going
out the door.
Yeah. That's what I hear. Like
you get used to feeling like a zombie. I mean, the thing that no one can prepare you for being a mother. Even everyone's advice is like, it's always different for everyone. What I did, I'm like, so I'm going to give you some advice.
Yeah, I'll take all the advice.
My first and my second one, I didn't have a community and I didn't have people helping me out with my first baby. And I suffered really bad postpartum. And it took a long time for me mentally, emotionally, and physically to get back to me. My second one, I had someone cooking meals for me because you don't have time to eat. So you're literally I would say like every 20 minutes, you're breastfeeding a baby. So you don't have time to look after yourself. I would also, if you could, maybe for the first couple of weeks, get a night nurse. For me, it was a game changer. It doesn't mean that you don't get up. You still get up every 3 hours. It just means that somebody else gives you the baby, you breastfeed, the baby goes down, and you're not staring at the baby every 10 minutes. Because that's the thing, like you don't sleep between those times because you're so worried about the baby. That I would say the night nurse and someone cooking for me was so helpful. Yeah. I mean, it's a game changer between the two of it.
Yeah. The night nurse is like, I mean,
did you have a night nurse? How did you know to do that for the first one?
Oh my God. Because people were like, my friends were like, you have to have the night nurse. They're like, do it. Like, you won't be sorry. And it is a
money.
Yeah, it is. It's expensive, but like even to have it 3 nights a week or something. I mean, just so you can get some sleep.
Remember, like you can't. Like they come at 9 o'clock, and you're like, okay, it's 8:30, it's 8:45, it's 8:55. Oh, she's
here, and you're like, here,
and you're like, here, take the baby, please take the baby. And then you just kind of like sit there, and then you feed at like 11, and then you sleep from like 11, and then they come in at like I think it's like 2 a.m. and you knock, and you're like, F this. And you're like, it's 2, and you're like, and then I remember the night nurse would put Lennon on my one boob, and I would like be breastfeeding. I'd be like, I think she's done. I think she's done. And the night nurse is like, no, I think she's still hungry. I'm like, can she hurry up? And then so she goes to the other boob, and that was the boob that she just like would suck for one sip per like 10 minutes.
The stud and the dud.
Flame favorite.
Take the baby.
And you're always lopsided. One is always more like engorged than the other.
Oh yeah. They always say which is your stud and your dud.
Yeah.
So my right was always my stud. So I now have a flat right boob because she much of the right boob. And then my left one looks great because she never really touched it. And so now one's squashed and one's, but I remember, do you remember this, Roxy? And I'm probably scaring the crap out of you, Kristy, but like you're in the car, if you don't breastfeed every like couple of hours and you miss a session. I remember being in the car, my boobs were popping out of my clothes.
Oh my God.
They start milking themselves. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like dropping.
And if someone cries, they will spray. So if you go to the grocery store and like a kid cries and if you haven't breastfeed, your boobs start spraying. It is the funniest thing. I mean, I can say now it's funny because it's like, it was terrifying at the time, but at least like I've given you some tips of how to
so much information there. It's so funny, but I was like, why don't we talk about, and I even like, I have 2 sisters and they each have 2 kids and there's things like I'm learning and I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? Like, why didn't no one talk about this?
Diapers that you're in diapers. You're in diapers for 6 weeks. And I'm like, why didn't
whether you have a C-section or not?
I'd be wearing a diapers?
No one talks about it.
You still wear a diaper when you have a C-section. I mean, I
brought lingerie, Roxy, to the hospital.
I love your optimism, though.
Right?
So sexy.
When you gotta do what you gotta do. I know. It's like, so you see these pictures of these women that just look so glamorous, like, and they're in I'm like, how did they do that? Like, did they have a makeup
like full
and hair
photo
person
shoots?
come in?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I just already said no pictures. I'm like, pictures of the baby. I only want pictures from like the back of my head.
You should take it of you just because you'll look back. Like, I look like I'm dying in the pictures. I'm like fully yellow. My jowls are out here. But I look back and I'm like, that was sweet. You know what I mean? Because at least I'm coming out of the birth and the baby, but at least I have those pictures because I know I don't look like that now. But and you have all the melasma too, right?
Yeah, it's sexy. It's sexy hot. I'm telling you, it's sexy hot.
So crazy.
It's you mentioned that you had suffered from body dysmorphia since you were young.
Yeah.
So where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that I've done a lot of work to unravel. And I think I've gotten to the point now that I don't want to say that I accept it. I just sort of disconnect from it. Like, I know that I'm never probably going to look in the mirror and see myself realistically or be like, oh, I really love how I look today. I just don't fixate it on it as much. And it's something that I still do a lot of work on, to be honest with you. And it's something that's important to me in advocating for girls and the way that we raise girls. I do think a lot of emphasis on physical appearance gets placed on girls at a very young age. And I think that was true for me. And for some reason, I internalized it. And I think I developed this sense that like I had to be pretty. So in spite of being smart or kind or these other things that I think are so much more valuable, it was like I didn't feel pretty. And so I fixated on that to the point that it became this sort of dysmorphic situation where in my younger years, I really would look in the mirror and see a monster. And, you know, my family was just like, what? I don't understand, you know, and, you know, things were different then too. It's not like therapy was a thing people talked about or, you know, I don't know. So you're navigating those things. And I obviously didn't know better. So for me, it's just like, I thought that's how I looked. I was like, you know, and then I'm not worth it because I'm not pretty. And that's sad, you know? So sometimes like I don't know where it comes from, you know, certainly like my family's super supportive and, you know, they weren't placing emphasis on appearance or things like that, but for whatever reason, it was my thing. It's something that I've continued to work with. So personally, like I am a big advocate for changing the message that we give girls.
Yes,
and
that's
I
what's
think,
so important.
Yes, we need to do this.
I do think it's changing, but you know, even as a woman dating, it's like, let's be honest. If we're getting set up with someone, what do you think the first question that guy is asking?
What does she look like?
What does she look like?
And for women, it's like, what does he do?
So, right. So men and women each have their thing for sure.
Well, and you dealt with one of the contestants saying to you that called your looks a 4 or something.
Yeah.
So what was your reaction to that? And like, have you healed from that?
I mean, you know, this was interesting. So I'm laughing because I'm like, don't get myself in trouble. Because there's a lot of things I wanted to say. There's a lot of things I wanted to say. But I think, you know, the truth is listen, whether he thinks I'm a 4 or not, that's his opinion. You know, my point was you don't do that. It's not okay to behave that way and to objectify someone's physical appearance with a numerical rating.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying he had to find me attractive. I'm not saying I found him attractive, but don't do that, you know? And so I think I knew it wasn't really about me, whether he thought I was attractive or not, because behaving like that speaks everything about him and very little about me. But to your point, of course, it still gave me that jar kind of setback to really feeling like I'm not enough. And for me to agree to do a reality show, I mean, this was on my mind because the truth is I knew 1,000% I would be judged on my appearance. People feel like they can say whatever they want to because you're not a quote unquote real person. And that was something I had to really think about. I was like, can I do this? Is this going to set me back? Is this something that I can weather? And ultimately I said, yes, you know, I feel like I knew it was coming. I didn't know that it was going to come from someone on the show per se in that way, but I knew there would be a moment where I would have to have a reckoning with this. And it was my chance to not internalize it and handle it differently, which is why I spoke out.
I told Roxy this, I think a couple months ago, but I just find talking about people's appearances so boring. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just so boring. There's so much richness to life and to us as women, and we're so complex and interesting and different, and there's just so many different facets to a human than their face. And I find it boring. I find when people talk about their appearance boring. I find the whole conversation and all we see, the noise that we see out there is all these like perfect 22-year-olds. And I just find it like banal. Like, I don't know. There's just something about it that I'm like, I have 2 young daughters and we don't talk about their looks. I think they're stunning. But I don't want them to walk around their whole life going, well, I got this because I look like this. I want them to work hard, to work on their intelligence, to work on their education, to work on their personalities, like be interested so you can be interesting. Yeah. And it's just like, you know, at the end of the day, we all get old and we all wrinkle, and you're going to have to find someone that turns you on when they're old and gray because of their brain, and you have something to talk about, like when you're 78 years old, because at 78, I ain't looking as like hot, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, unless you're Kris Jenner, I mean, I'm sure she kind of has it down pat. But you know, it's just like we're all gonna be sagging, and it's everyone. No one gets to not age.
Yeah,
you know? So
it's true. It can be part of the picture, you know, and certainly, like, I want to look my best. I think, you know, looking your best, feeling your best, it's part
That's for
of
you.
It's for you. Yeah, it's part of a bigger picture. But it is sad, you know, that becomes a thing. You know, and I do think it has to change with society. And I think, you know, that being said, of course you want to be attracted to the person that you're dating. Right. But, you know, for me, at least, attraction is partly about physicality, and everyone has different tastes, you know, otherwise we'd all be doing the same people. So, it's interesting how one thing has become so dominant in a lot of these perceptions and maybe the way we navigate dating. It's really crazy when you actually step back and think about it, because there's nothing else like that seems to hold so much weight and, you know, so much sensitivity too. I mean, there's nothing that will trigger you, I think, especially as a woman, than being judged by the way you look, which to a certain degree you have no control over.
And I think it's what we were talking about a little bit before, is educating our young girls in this day in day and age, because I think none of us came out of our, you know, growing up in our childhoods unscathed in that way, because no matter what, it was like pre-programmed. Like you know, you need to be pretty. You need to be pretty to get this, to do that, to have opportunity. And I think the dialogue has to change now with our younger kids, you know, and we have to really tell them, like, value your brain, value your, you know, your kindness, your personality, like all of those things. So I think the whole conversation has to change. And it's just so interesting that young boys are not programmed the same way. It's not, they've never been told you have to be handsome to get, you know,
but
X,
to
Y,
be
and
fair,
Z.
they're told that they have to be strong. And I think that's a bad thing as well, because you know, even with my husband recently, I said to him, like, I've like seen you cry 3 times within 13 years. Like, they just, men aren't taught to show emotion. And then I think that becomes an issue down the line, because to show weakness is failure. And so I think what we have to teach young girls is that it's not about just your looks. And what we have to teach young boys is that emotion is okay. And being sensitive is okay, because they bottle it all up, and you don't hear a lot of women serial killers. You don't. Yeah. I mean, you don't, because it's not about, like, we cry and eat some chocolate. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
well, and I think too, that will also help the conversation with young girls, because if men can freely express themselves,
of course,
then they're not putting that on women to be, you know, this way or look perfect and like look and, you know, take their pain and their frustrations out on us. You know, so it's like, it's all a cycle, you know?
It is. Yeah. I think we have some interesting years ahead. You know, there's so much changing socially and culturally. And I feel like life is so different now. And there's so many different ways to navigate any one of these big topics. And we're kind of in the middle of it all right now. So, you know, the generations coming up, it's going to be so interesting what life is like for them. And I think things hopefully will be quite different. I'm not saying there won't be their own issues, but I think some of these things that have been a struggle for many of us for so long, I do see changing with future generations. I see different emphasis. I see different way of perceiving other people and treating other people. And that actually makes me really hopeful and really excited.
Yeah.
Roxy and I get really bad PMS. Can you, because you're an acupuncturist, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you help us not be such bitches to our husband just before we get our periods?
I mean,
because
honestly, acupuncture is so good for PMS.
I know, but we haven't been able to. We've been quarantined.
No.
And we've been yelling at everyone around us, which is no one but our husbands.
Yeah, there's some healing things that you can tell us to do to help
Roxy's
us.
I need to heal myself.
I need to heal myself and
yoga. I'm always a huge fan of yoga.
Yes, but I stopped in quarantine.
Yeah, I love check out Boho Beautiful on YouTube. She's so good, and she's got so many different yoga classes, different lengths. There's teas for that, yogi teas. They make some. I'm a big fan of holy basil just for stress. So take your holy basil or take your ashwagandha. I find that people usually respond better to one over the other. I personally am a holy basil person.
I feel high with holy basil because I used to chew it. You used to put you chew it and then after a few seconds you're like, whoa.
That's so
supposed to feel
maybe
that?
I should try that.
That might not be your I mean, I don't know if you want
to. She's like, oh, is it like weed? I'm like,
I know.
It's different.
It's so funny. I mean, I did not have that experience with it. I'm like, sounds kind of nice. But to me, it just makes me be able to take a breath before I react, or just, it really regulates cortisol. So that kind of fight or flight feeling.
That's a good one. Oh my gosh. An ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha.
Yeah, those are two of my favorite herbs. Huge fan of lemon balm too, by the way. And that's such a good one right now because it's an antiviral. But that one is really good for stress and anxiety. So
Roxy's on the computer right now. She's click, 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 click. She just bought a whole thing.
Lemon balm might be the herb of the moment with everything going on. Take your lemon balm.
So are there things we can do at home? I don't know if you do acupressure also. Are there points and things that we can do at home to give ourselves a quick moment?
Yeah, you can. I mean, so in the web between your pointer finger and your thumb, that's a really dominant acupuncture point. If you actually press, there's going to be a point that's very sensitive when you press.
Okay.
That's a good one. And I actually have a really bad headache right now, so that's a good one for headache. But really that will help kind of just move the energy in the whole body, sort of regulate the energy, make sure everything's flowing. So that's just a good one. And you could be sitting there anywhere and pressing that.
Kind of like a Kegel.
Exactly. You can do all your exercises at once. Right. The other thing you can do is get an ear seed, which you can, or it's a little ball with a seed on it, and stick it in shenmen in your ear, which is really
I did those for a while.
The top
do they work?
Part of your ear. It really does. And then what you do there is you press it. So that seed is pressing that point. And you could look this up online because shenmen it's a heart point in your ear. It's such a popular one. But the idea is when you're pressing that seed, you're stimulating that point. And, there are models of acupuncture where you treat everything just using the ear. So, that's probably the only point that's really accessible to you to do yourself. But again, that's stress, that's calming.
Yeah. What's the best thing for anxiety in the moment? If you're really anxious about something in the moment, what's something quick you can do?
I mean, I do find that holy basil works pretty quickly.
Really helps, yeah. I take L-theanine. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's actually really helpful for me.
Yeah, so I think that's a good thing. And there's so many options out there, which I think is overwhelming to people. And we all respond differently. That's the hard thing. So I have my favorites, and I tell people holy basil and ashwagandha is a good example. I personally love ashwagandha, but I don't notice it that much. Whereas I take holy basil and it's immediate. And then there's people who have the opposite. But to the immediate anxiety, do you ladies know? Do you know Bach flower remedies? Rescue remedy.
Yes, Rescue.
Really,
Okay.
When I got married, I took the whole bottle of Rescue. That I was I'm walking down the aisle like this. My husband was crying. He's the one of the 3 times he's cried. It was when I was walking down the aisle, and he was like, "Ah!" And you're just so out of it with Rescue. I was just like, "Oh, we're getting
You're
married."
doing the Miss America wave to everybody.
And I even thought I should probably cry because these pictures are gonna be of me going I'm good.
We're I'm good.
And he was like, "Ah!" But I was really chilled out. I took the whole bottle.
The flower remedies are really safe. They're really safe.
Are they safe for pregnant people too to take?
Yeah, I mean, you should always check with your healthcare provider. But it's one of the things I love about homeopathics or flower essences. if you really test those things, it's going to show there's nothing in it. And yet they have such a strong, especially on anything emotional.
Okay.
They have such a strong impact on that. So usually people are using them for emotional things, but Rescue Remedy has kind of become a cult following, not even just in the holistic world, really in mainstream. You can find it at the stores. You wouldn't expect to find it because it really is safe and popular. And we all seem to be stressed and anxious, I'd say these days, but I mean, that's kind of a modern thing. Everyone's looking to take their stress level down a notch. So that's something that is safe. And I think they actually even have kids versions. It's just a lower dose.
Okay. That's good to know.
Before we let Kristy go, should we do a Never Have I Ever?
Yes, we should.
Never have I ever. Your publicists are like, we should be listening for this.
I always forget this. If I have done it, what am I supposed to do?
Never have. So you would say,
I have, right?
I have, yeah. And then, or I have never.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a good one.
Okay, go.
Never have I ever. This is so bad. You're going to say no, and because you have to. Never have I ever slept with a guy to try to get pregnant.
Ooh.
I know Roxy has, but with her husband. She was like, "Oh, I'm on my period," and he's like, "Sure." I'm like, "How do you not know that?" But sure.
I mean, can I say I kind of have. I mean, this might not be relevant.
Did you say let's just have sex, but then see what happens.
I mean, I can say prior to the show, in my recent years of dating, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I maybe played a little Russian roulette because I was 100% fine with the result.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You're like, I'll do it.
Yeah. I was like,
I remember when I tried to get pregnant with my husband, I called him home from a meeting and I was like, you have to come home. He's like, I'm in a meeting with 20 people. I'm like, you have to have sex with me right now. And we got pregnant. So I'm glad that I did that.
Yeah, so didn't work in the past. I guess I have to say I have.
Okay. I got a good one. Never have I ever imagined what Brad Womack would be like as a dad. To my kids. To my kids. Okay.
I definitely haven't.
You're like 100% no.
Cute kids, though, would be cute kids.
Yeah, you would have cute kids for sure. Okay.
I don't know now.
Ooh.
Never have I ever... tried to get back with an ex because I knew he would be a good dad, but I didn't really like him that much as a relationship person.
Okay, well, say I haven't.
Okay.
But prior to the show, I did have those discussions about co-parenting with an ex that I
Oh, okay.
I think
I did revisit.
He was on board. I revisited.
Okay,
so
okay.
I'll go with the I have
sort of maybe, yeah. I gotcha.
I'm making my own rules for the game, like the Kristy answer is
You're making your PC rules. We get it.
Yeah. Okay. Never have I ever hooked up with more than one guy on the show in the same day from Labor of Love.
Mm-hmm.
Hooked up.
And hooked up could be kissed, right?
Could be kissed, yeah.
That's like an average Friday night when I was 21.
Yeah, exactly. With a little more.
That's a good question. No,
how many did I kiss?
I haven't.
Yeah, haven't. No. So, okay. So
because the way filming is, those dates are filmed on separate days.
Okay. So
never have I ever been on Labor of Love and I thought someone was going to be a really good kisser and they kissed and it was just terrible. Yes, of course. We all have.
Right?
We all have.
Uh-huh.
I have.
Yeah.
But I was with someone who's
very famous. I was with someone who's very famous once. I made out with him, really famous. And it was the worst.
Wait, is it who I'm thinking of? Who you told me about before?
It was the worst sexual chemistry. It was the worst kiss I've ever had. And I kind of want to tell everyone because I'm like, that guy's really famous and he makes a lot of money. It's really bad.
You could use some of it for kissing lessons. It's funny because I think, kissing's such a chemistry thing, right? Mm-hmm. Over anything. So if you don't have chemistry with someone, you're going to find out real quick if you kiss them. But I have kissed guys where I'm like, they're my age. I'm like, how have you made it this far? And that's how you kiss. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wait, is it me?
Yeah, how's no one told you?
This has worked for you for 4 years.
Also, guys who are bad in bed, I'm like, how I'm mad at the woman. I'm actually mad at the woman. I'm not mad at the guy. I'm like, how has no one said this is a terrible job? Like, you're doing a bad job.
You've not been corrected along the way.
This is not how it works.
I mean, it's like we would never know, right? Because it's like, what's it like with other women? I don't know. Is it a chemistry thing? I mean, how could things be that different? But I think we've all had those experiences where we're just like, what? Yeah. How is this possible? You know,
right?
Is it me? Like,
it's almost like it's almost like the more good looking the guy, the less he has to work at it.
You know, I hate to say it, but I think there's some truth to that. You know, when you have everything handed to you,
right? It's
easy. The good and bad are the ones that never got any girls, and they're like work so hard.
They really try.
They can really try.
Well, I mean, and it's you know what? There's like a good thing it's a good way to determine, because the truth is like, a selfish lover is not a good lover, right? And if someone's selfish in their actual life,
right, it spills over. Yeah.
I think we know what's going to happen there, ladies.
A selfish lover for me, because I'm out within the first date.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell. You can tell, right? Yeah.
You can. I think in both ways too. Maybe someone who's more generous in that way. Yeah. Like, chances are that's how they treat you in life. That's how they treat people in life. You know, I don't think it's coincidental. I don't think there's any coincidence between in the bedroom and out of the bedroom.
Right.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
Universal truth, ladies.
You're going to plead the fifth to this one.
This is the last one, Roxy. Okay. So you better make it as good as you've got.
Never have
I feel stressed.
I know. You're sweating.
Take your holy basil.
Where's my holy basil?
Where's your ashwagandha and your holy basil and your
let me get your ears on. I got to get an acupuncture point here.
Go like this. Go like this.
It's like pushing your ears really hard.
It's like, was there a truth point? I can't lie.
Never have I ever been pregnant.
I mean,
he's not going to tell us.
Contractual obligations, ladies.
Yes.
The Trump that never have I ever game, unfortunately.
Because you're asking, she's got pregnant now.
Yeah,
I got it. I was like, we can talk about miscarriage, but I got what you're doing. I saw what you were doing there.
You'll see.
But it's a valiant effort.
Right. I mean,
I've never been asked that question in this way, and never have I ever game. I have to say.
It's kind of a little
and it was a good effort.
I'm
the only better effort is if we had you attached to a lie detector test.
Yes. This is what we forgot.
And I'm the worst. Like, I think I could be telling the truth and I would still fail.
I know. That's why I'm like,
it's just testing. Like, are you anxious or not? And I like get all stressed out if I,
sweating. I know this is your last opportunity to give us a bump shot if you want to, Kristy. If you want to.
Are we putting it out next week? We're probably putting it out when you announce anyway. Well, you don't have a chipmunk cheek, so the jury's out.
Yeah, I know. You look great.
But
you
that
look
does
gorgeous.
that's probably halfway through. You know what I mean, Roxy? Because when you hit like 8 months.
And her hair does look really full and luscious, doesn't it?
When you hit 8 months, your nose gets really squashed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so many things to look forward to.
So many things. The bad skin.
No pressure, right? They're like, we're going to air the show.
Out.
We're going to air the show in the middle of a pandemic and everything that I've been going through. I mean, hormones are no joke. I'm like, okay.
Don't worry.
All the things.
Just know that all the mom bods are the same. We're in the same situation.
We can all flap in the wind together. It's all good.
I looked down at my boobs. I was like, how did they get so far down?
It also doesn't help. Ladies. It also doesn't help that I haven't been wearing a bra in quarantine.
Oh, I know.
I'm just so lazy.
It's going to be quarantine sag. We're going to call it the quarantine sag.
The quarantine sag.
Returning to the real world is going to be rough for us. I mean, there's been a lot of liberating moments in quarantine.
Which reminds me, I'm going boxing in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to
awesome. Good for you.
Beat that boxing bag. I know. It's kind of weird though, because we're at a distance. It's like, I'm really trying to get the bag.
You know what, though? I have to say, I'm so impressed by, humans are so adaptable. I think this has just been a few months and it seemed like longer, but I think of the way everyone and businesses and, even just socially, we've adapted and, we've never seen anything like this before. And I think that's really actually impressive to me in the moments, when I get really down, it does make me hopeful. And
right.
I'm really proud of people and how quickly really changes were made to try to continue on with life.
Lessons, and it's a season, and you know what we learn now will never be the same again. So hopefully it'll be for the better.
Right. Yeah, hopefully in good ways too, right?
But thank you, Kristy, so much.
Thank you.
And you can find us, I'm not going to get this wrong this time, Roxy. You can find us on Women on Top Official on Instagram.
And Women on Top Podcast on Facebook. And Kristy, where can we find you, and tell us when we can watch the show and all the good stuff?
Okay, so show is airing Thursday nights on Fox. It's 9/8 Central. If you missed any episodes, you can catch us on Fox Now or Hulu. And I think you're not going to want to miss the end of this whole journey.
Oh, and social media? Do you have social media?
I do.
Like, no, I have no social media.
Yeah, you can follow the show at Labor of Love.
What is social media?
I mean, you guys, it's no joke. I'm not like the social media queen. So it's like I'm learning so much along the way. But you can follow me on my account, Kristy Katzmann. So it's just my name. And the show also has a handle, Labor of Love Fox. So you can follow the show there too.
Very cool.
And I am Tam and Sirsa.
And I am Roxy Manning.
And we are
Women
on Top.